What's going on, people? We are back again with another video, and this one right here is all about Danielle on her Instagram live. And trust me, I tell you, she says a whole lot of bungle. I have no idea what that word is. I just made it up on the spot because that is legit what Danielle does. But there are some very interesting points throughout the video, so I would say this right now: get out your notepads, and each time she says something, get ready to type it into the comment section. You know what I mean? I don't care if you end up leaving 5 comments, 10 comments, 20 comments. All I'm saying is that some of the things that she says in this video is very questionable. I want to say problematic, but I think maybe that's a bit too far. But let's just say Danielle giving relationship advice. It can only be comical. So hey, I look forward to seeing exactly what you guys are going to say in the comment section. But of course, please do make sure you do like the video and also subscribe to help your boy out with the algorithm. But hey, let's get it.
Relationships. I am in a particularly difficult situation because I'm also on television. So with being on television comes contacts, regardless of whether or not you think that the role that I play on television is important. It does come with a particular network and phone calls that I can make and things that I can say to get what I want that is different from my friends who don't work in television. So sometimes I think about my friendships and like when my phone rings, is this person calling me because they really want to have dinner with me, or are they calling me because they want to be seen having dinner with me and they want the network that comes with and the reposting that comes with. I think about it in terms of 90 Day Fiancé. You know, like if another cast member in the show is like, hey, I'd like to meet up. Are you meeting up with me because you're actually interested in my story or interested in me? Or do you want to meet up because you want the repost and you want the blogger asking questions about who you are? And so I feel like I have to constantly evaluate my relationships. And I was inspired after a couple of things happened over the course of this week to share this and ask you for this new moon in Scorpio. Evaluate your relationships. Hi, good to see you. I'm coming back to DR soon. Sorry, that was a transition. But I want you to think about, okay, who are the relationships that I have in my life? And you can actually write this down. Like, who do I consider my friends? Who do I consider my acquaintances? Who are just colleagues, just people I work with, and that's the only purpose they serve, and we have a great time at work, but like not after work. You know, who are my partners? You know, who is my partner? What does that relationship look like? And then think about what are the ways that you are benefiting or growing from these relationships, and what are the things that you are giving in these relationships. And so I've spent a lot of time this morning in meditation and really over the course of this week as I was prepping for this new moon in my season, because it is still my season, thinking about what does the transactional relationship look like and how do you address it? You know, you're very welcome. Happy birthday. So I'm going to share an example of how you can address a relationship that you feel like is transactional. So I'm going to share an experience I'm having. I have a friend who is a coach, and oh, I love you, Frankie. That's so sweet to say. I have a friend who is a coach who our relationship started as a professional relationship, but it was also, she was part of the same network as me. We were friendly too. But as we both grew in our jobs, there were ways that we could support each other financially too. I could refer her clients, and I could hire her to do things for me. And as we both grew in our journeys, I've noticed that the check-ins about, hey Danielle, how are you? They always end with, yeah, and I'm offering this program. Do you want to buy it? Or do you want to sell it to your friends? Hey, let's have lunch. I'd love to see you. But during that lunch, it's always, hey, I'm doing this retreat. Do you want to promote it to your people? And so whenever I have those experiences, I'm always like, eek. Does this mean I can't have you in my life anymore? Do you feel transactional relationships are in any sense healthy relationships? Great question. They're healthy if both people know it's transactional. If I think that you're inviting me to lunch because you miss me and you want to hang out with me, and that's why I'm going, that's why I'm taking time out of my day to go, and in the context of that lunch, you try to sell me something, I'm like, ugh, this was a complete fucking waste of time, and I'm never going to buy your shit because you manipulated me to get here. Like, I would go to your retreat. I would buy your program. I actually fuck with all the same people you fuck with, and I know you have a lot to offer me professionally. But because you brought me here under false pretenses, I no longer trust you, and I'm never going to give you my money if I can't trust you. So you know, there's no problem with a transactional relationship. A lot of people say that my relationship with my husband was a transactional relationship, which I find very surprising because that's not how I entered it. But, you know, there are people who say I married him for sex and he married me for money. And I'm like, I can get sex anywhere I want at any time I want. I don't even have to be that pretty, you know, and I'm not exactly a troll. So, like, it's really not that hard to get sex as a woman. So I hope nobody thinks that, like, that's what I sold my whole life for. Really vibing with this content. Good. I'm glad. I hope you're learning something from it and you're reflecting on your relationships, because at the end of the day, like, transactional relationships are not problematic if everybody knows what they're there for. If I call you and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm running a retreat next month. I need to start filling it. Or I'm running a retreat next year. I need to start filling it. You've got a really big network. Let's sit down for a meeting during lunch and powwow how we can support each other financially. I can offer an affiliate code for your program. You can offer an affiliate code for my program, whatever. Or you sit down with someone and say, hey, my cousin needs a green card. He's willing to pay $20,000 for that green card. You want to marry him? That's a transactional relationship. And in New York, I have plenty of people in my life who have those relationships, who have husbands, you know, in an apartment somewhere that they married specifically so that they can get cash and they can get a green card. That is a real situation. I'm not saying it's ethical or right, but I'm just saying if everybody's signing up for the same shit, then there's no problem. And so know that when you sit down with someone under false pretenses, and you are the one who's trying to gain from the transaction, it is very possible, if not likely, the person sitting across from you is very aware of what you're trying to do with them. And it's important that we make sure that we don't damage relationships that we value because we're trying to make $1. I need to build quality relationships. I haven't built a lot of them, personal, professional. You know, I think anytime that I've lost quality relationships, when I think about it, it's always been because I haven't been a present enough friend. Because I prioritize my work. That's really it. I just prioritize my work over my relationships. And as a result, I've damaged a lot of relationships. And so you have to think about, how am I showing up to my relationships? And am I vibrating in a way that's going to attract people who are going to support me and love me for the right reasons? And if you look at your relationships and you feel like there aren't a lot of quality relationships, ask yourself why. How am I contributing to my relationships? How am I showing up to my relationships? Because everything, I don't want to say that everything's our fault, but everything outside of us is a reflection of our own psyche. You know, like, Johan taking money out of my bank account is not my fault. Him lying about it is not my fault. But what did I do to manifest that kind of situation in my life? What did I do to make him think he needed to steal? Or what did I do to allow this person to live with me and even have access to my credit card? Like, what are the things that I'm doing that are allowing me to attract this energy? And learn that many relationships were not quality. Yeah, and you also have to decide, what do you want from your relationships? What you think is a valuable relationship is not what I think is a valuable relationship. Again, you guys know Lizette and Sandra. They're like, I don't talk to them every day. Birthdays, holidays, when I come to New York, we always do like some kind of dinner, book club, connect. But like, these aren't the people I talk to every day, or like my Instagram friends, or, you know, people who live near me, or people who we have to do some kind of work together. Those are my day-to-day people. But like my real lifelong friends, I don't speak to them very often, for a number of different reasons. What are we thinking? I missed the first part. Have you just started? So what we're talking about is transactional relationships. Transactional relationships are relationships that are rooted in some sort of exchange. Okay, what else? I need someone to moderate. I have prioritized my sobriety, which is what I'll continue to do. Oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I don't enjoy drinking at all. I'm not good at it. Like, every time I have a drink, it goes right to my bloodstream. I have to drink 7 bottles of water for every alcoholic beverage I drink. I can drink mezcal. That's like the one thing that doesn't make me sick or give me a hangover. But for the most part, like, going out drinking all night is something that I've done because it's what all my friends do. But it's not really something I enjoy. I would much rather, like, sit in this backyard and smoke a blunt and, like, grill a burger. Like, that's how I would love to spend my time. But I just don't live in a world where that's what the people who I'm around really want the same things. They're like street people or whatever. So like, when you decide to become sober, you lose a lot of friends. So that's huge. I know you married for love, but have you guys talked about it? I think he did too. You know, there's still a season airing, so I'm not really going to talk that. I don't think that Johan just married me for a green card. I know that it does me better if I say that he did, or if you know, but I actually don't think that's true. And I would say that if I really thought it. You know, I think that what he sees as marriage and what I see as marriage are actually different things. I think he believes that if you love someone, you'll give them all your money. That's what he really believes, because all of his relationships have been women supporting him, every single one that he's had. He's never worked in any of his relationships. So, and all of those relationships ended because he had no money. Or didn't contribute. I shouldn't say had no money, but chose not to contribute. So, it's not a me issue. And I'm the first American. Let's see the fit. It's like kind of Trumpy. Okay? It's not very cute. It's like a jumper. But it's kind of my I wear 5 things here. Every single item of clothing that I own is in Dominican Republic. So like, you know, I bought some things in Mexico and in New York and here, but I really wear the same 5 things every day. I need to build. Where are we? Hi, Manchester. All right. Ooh, what did I miss? Love your hair and its natural color. Ugh, it's like black and gray. All right, I think I got all the questions. What's this? Firstly, I think society has made us all think what transactions in relationship are the norms, when in reality, having an expectations from your partner because you do something for them takes away, yes. And what was your agenda? His scintillating conversation? I don't know what that is connected to. From that intimacy or love, then it becomes an obligation instead of love or cherished appreciation. Also, what is love? What does love even look like? Right? Love is not a feeling. Love is a practice. So in what ways are we practicing love? Practicing love might be, for some people, I buy you things. That is, you know, gifts, right? That's like one of our love languages. Acts of service is another love language. Quality time is another love language. Johan and I did sit down and talk. I mean, this is what I do for a living. So at the jump, I bought a deck of cards from Intelligent Change that's like closer together or getting closer. I don't remember what the cards were, but like we would sit on the phone all night, every night, and like I would ask, like use these prompts, and we would have conversations about things in our lives. So like there are ways that you can build connection and closeness that are not about just transactions and money and providing things. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. You know, it's hard when people say that I'm an inspiration. I don't recommend my path at all. I don't recommend my path. My path is not easy, and it's lonely, and it's I don't know. You can find a lot more peace by not being inspired by my path, to be real. But it feels, in this body, it feels very worthwhile because I learn and I grow so much, and because I'm an educator and a student. That's really what I care about more than anything else in the world. It's the path for me. It's cultural, and it's not just DR, but his beliefs reminded me of Nigeria too, where my boyfriend is from. It's really cultural difference in how their culture believes a relationship to be. I get, you know, we use this term culture as an umbrella for the way that people in a particular place behave. And I think that we have to be careful by using cultural as an excuse. It's cultural for Americans to be entitled. It is cultural for me to assume that when I get on the phone and I ask for something, my needs are going to be met immediately, either by a human or by a computer. It is cultural for me to go to a restaurant and sit down and expect that I'm going to be served within 25 to 30 minutes. That is a cultural experience as an American. It is cultural for me to really think that I can go anywhere in the world and do whatever the fuck I want and have no no consequences, because we see it all the time where people go to other countries and they break the country's laws, and someone who's important in my country will go to their country and get the person back, and they'll never be held accountable for their crimes. We see it all the time. So it is cultural for Americans to be entitled. That doesn't mean it's okay. That's not an excuse. When I go to the Dominican Republic and I expect everybody to bow to me and do whatever I want, I can just say, sorry, it's cultural. Fuck that. Fuck that. We have to be accountable for our behavior regardless of where we grow up. Now, my accountability as a white woman with the privilege that I have, and someone else's accountability as a person of color in an impoverished nation where they've been colonized, it's a little bit different. We look at entitlement differently and culture differently. But I think that we have to say how much of how someone behaves is conditional, and are they willing to recognize and change that? Okay, so if culturally you're misogynist, great, we've identified this as a thing. Here are some examples of how this is problematic. Are you willing to evolve and accept that the culture that you've lived and grown in might not be one that's going to support healthy relationships or growth in general, financially, in any way. So, yes, it's cultural. What are we doing about it? Agreed, Esther. Let's see. You're a good person, but I would never marry a man from a third world country. I don't minimize my options and people who I want to spend time with based on where their passport is from. I would never say I'd never marry a man from a third world country because he lives in a third world country because my people colonized it. It's not his fault. It's not anyone's fault that their soul is born into a different body than mine. That's a privilege to be able to say, I'll never marry a man from this place. That's a very privileged attitude to have. I will marry people who move with love. I don't care where the fuck they come from. But that's just me. Authenticity. Nah. Appreciate you. Are you willing to? Obviously, because the lack of resources and progression, the whole relationship dynamic is so old school. The second Johan signed a contract to be on Love in Paradise, which was about 6 or 7 weeks after we met, his access to resources changed. He was no longer a poor black man in a third world country. He was now, I guess he was now someone living in a third world country but making an American salary. He was now someone who had a free, not even free, a platform that was paid for him, right? Because Time Warner created his platform. I built his Instagram, but he was given a platform by Time Warner, by Discovery Plus at that time, not by anything that he did. So once he made that transition, his access to resources changed dramatically. And so that excuse, I can't make any money because I live in a poor country, kind of went out the window. Especially when I'm your fucking Kris Jenner, because I can make anyone have and do anything. And I you can test me on that because I can. There are things that are instilled in our brains we can always learn to not act or treat others in transactional ways. It's control of our emotions and using our wise mind, not our emotional mind. Yeah, our core self. We have to remember that emotions are information. Emotions teach us something. When I look at a Reddit thread, so every week someone sends me the Reddit threads, anywhere that my name or my relationship or anything that I do has shown up in Reddit, I get a summary, and then I get particular things that I should pay attention to that might impact my brand. And when I look at this list, there are certain things that people, most of the time it's nonsense and it doesn't impact me in any way. But when I am triggered, when I'm like, fuck you, bitch, that's when I have to be like, ooh, that hurt. What is in that statement that person said that I believe? Where do I feel or see truth in that? And then I have to sit with that and figure out, okay, what is it that I need to work on so that I don't feel triggered by that, so that I get better, so that I'm not triggered by other people's things. Emotions are very important, but we shouldn't act on emotions. I shouldn't see that comment and then connect to that person and be like, you fucking whore, it's just, I think I'd have a proper tripod on this phone. It's just information. And so if we use our emotions to teach us things, then emotions are amazing. If you can use our emotions to guide our wise mind or our core self, then it's useful. I'm currently in Florida. Love knows no borders. And that is a fact. He was adelante. But we can't expect from a man in a third world country what we expect from a man in the United States, though. We shouldn't have any expectations at all. Expectations is the cause of all problems by having expectations. You should never, ever have expectations of anything. I don't make any assumptions about anything. Whenever I engage in any kind of relationship, especially now, I have lots of conversations about what is it that we want? What is it that we want to do? What do we want to create? What do you see as your dream life? What do you see as your dream job? Whenever I'm bringing someone on to work for me or work with me side by side, I always say, this is my brand. This is how I work. These are all the things that are going to make it hard to work with me. These are all the benefits of working with me. I always lead with, you sure you want this? Because these are all the things that are going to make it very hard, because this is how I work. And anybody who's ever left me, it's for these reasons. So just letting you know with the jump, these are my areas of growth. They're things I'm always working on, but you can have expectations. That is one thing it's very clear in any spiritual text you read, any self-help book. Expectations are a recipe for disaster. Illusions, ideas of what something should be, are a recipe for disaster. I often date people not from my culture because I recognize the expectations that people from my culture have. So that's actually really interesting to think about. Do you do private coaching sessions? Yes, I do. Well, then he got greedy. I don't know if he got greedy or if he just didn't trust. He didn't, we had a 5-year plan. Because he doesn't understand how the world works. He doesn't know what the fuck a TDA is. He doesn't know what a Roth IRA is. He doesn't know what a health savings account is. He doesn't understand how pensions work. In my particular relationship, I was trying to deal with someone who didn't understand language. Not because it was in English, but because it was explaining things that he had no frame of reference for. So it was less about greed and more about you have all this money going into a thing, but you don't have a tangible thing. So where is it going? Are you blowing it on lipstick? So that was part of it, and is still a part of it. Not reacting to triggers can sometimes be difficult. I wish I knew how to deal with my triggers. Very emotional. So there's a book that was very helpful to me in the beginning of my healing process, and I've mentioned it probably on every live about relationships that I've talked about. The DBT workbook, and it's all about redirecting your responses to triggers. So when you are dealing with complex PTSD, for example, there are certain things that are, no matter what, always going to trigger you. And so when you see these things happen, you start to train your brain using your neuroplasticity and actually rewiring how your brain works, so that this trigger no longer is paired with this response. Now it will be paired with this response. So for example, if you work with cutters, people who self-harm, sometimes the directive will be to put a rubber band around the wrist. So instead of cutting, you pull the rubber band. So it hurts a little bit, but it's not breaking skin and it's not causing you to bleed and get infections. And so that's a redirective behavior. Whenever you are working with a therapist, and I never recommend doing this on your own, I recommend doing this with a professional, but when you look at what are your triggers, you actually have to sit and look at the patterns. Every time my boss does this, I lose my shit. Every time my partner does this, I lose my shit. Every time my kid does this, I lose my shit. You actually have to make a list of those things. And then you start to retrain your brain to, okay, when this happens, first of all, you have to understand the why it triggers you in that way, and that's going to be a big part of it. And then you start to say, okay, so when this happens, instead of telling my partner to go fuck themselves, I'm letting my partner know, you know what, when you do this, it triggers me, so next time this happens, I'm going to leave the room for 5 minutes so I don't throw this pan at you. So know that I'm not walking away from the conversation, I'm just keeping us both safe. And so you have to start, setting boundaries. Boundaries in communication That's what I always talk about. You have to start setting boundaries and communicating how you're going to respond to a particular thing. That's exactly it. I love someone else understands wise mind and core self. Yeah, core self, internal family systems was really life-changing for me. Understanding, and that is why I'm able to love all the people who hurt me, because I see them as their core selves. And we have our core self, which is our God self. As a spiritual woman, we call that God. And then we have all these other parts of ourselves that are wounded for various reasons, because, you know, someone gave us the wrong fucking order at McDonald's when we were 16 and we took it personally. We thought it was because we were a woman or because we were ugly or because we were black or whatever it was. And that fucking sent off a trigger of emotions, and it's something that you carried with you. Like, everybody, we all have trauma for real shit and dumb shit and whatever it is. Every single one of us who is walking this earth has trauma that they've experienced at some point in their life, whether it was intentional or not. So understanding that my core self is the untraumatized God self, and all of these other parts of myself are the result of trauma, and starting to build conversations between the core self and these other parts is how you start to work through this. Yeah, areas of growth. That's why I hate myself so much, because I'm always working on my areas of growth. Now, has Johan learned how to use his wise mind? Because though watching only small moments, he does tend to let his emotional mind control his action. Has Johan learned to use his wise mind? He doesn't get it. You know, we sat with a therapist. You know, he's dealing with MPD and like borderline personality disorder. It's beyond wise mind. It's like what the work that he would need to evolve is like, I don't know that he would ever see that it's worth it. He would have to have someone who is not me, that he loves and trusts, explain to him what he's doing to himself. And he doesn't have anyone in his life that's going to be able to do that. I look pretty. Thank you. I feel like a disaster. Distress behavior tolerance. No, that wasn't it. It was dialectical behavior therapy. That's what the DBT stood for. You're welcome. I need a one-on-one with you so bad. My life is a mess. Click the link in my bio. So the best way to work with me, honestly, is to do an individual reading, because we'll go through your birth chart, we'll go through yoga, we'll go through Ayurveda, and I can give you a plan. If you want to do one-on-one coaching, it's very possible. It's just very expensive. So people always have a heart attack when they're like, do you do coach? And it's not like $100 an hour. It is a 4-month program that is very intense, and you're communicating with me on a daily basis, and it's a lot of work. And I only take 3 people at a time. And since I've been in transition, I haven't taken people, but I am going to start working with people again in January. So all that info. I'm healing from childhood trauma most of my life. I'm now 41 and still trying. It is lifelong. There's no such thing as healed past tense. Even when you have a wound, here's a scar that I have on my arm. This scar is from when I was in 8th grade. I went through a window. It doesn't matter how much healing I do. This scar will always be there. It doesn't hurt me. You can't really see it unless I point it out, but it's always going to be there. We're always healing. It is a present thing. It is never completely healed. Things will not trigger us as much, and we'll respond to our triggers better. But when you have, especially if you're dealing with complex trauma, you're always healing, and you have to forgive yourself for that. It's not something you can judge yourself for. Love your earrings. Thank you. These I got. My stepmother took me to a place in Jensen Beach called Shuckers. It's a restaurant in a hotel, and the hotel had a really cute gift shop, and that's where I got them. But I can't remember the name of the hotel. If you know, tell me. What else? Hola. Hola, Colombia. Okay. I appreciate you. I think you are amazing. So do you guys have any questions about transactional relationships? I see people want to be in my live, and I always am nervous to add people to my live because
Well. Danielle had a lot to say. She had a whole lot to say, but you know what though? There's only one point that I really want to speak about, and I feel like it's very crucial here, is the fact that she denies her relationship being a transaction. Denies the fact that her relationship with Johan is for her own sexual benefit, and his benefit is the transactional part. When all we've seen throughout the seasons that we've seen these two, Johan has made it abundantly clear that everything for him is all revolved around pretty much what she can do to provide for him, time and time again. You know, and honestly, it makes us think, so what does she want in return? And really and truly, it's always felt as if what she wants in return is pretty much the wood. The wood, if you dig what I'm saying. But very much interested to see what you guys are going to say in the comment section, all the points that you was able to, gather throughout. And yeah, we can most certainly talk about it.